If you've been feeling a little overwhelmed or scattered or just stretched thin, and you're tired of those same morning routine videos that tell you to fix that, you need to like wake up at 5 a.m. and like jump into a cold shower and journal for an next hour, then stay with me because in this video, I'm gonna unpack 8 really simple shifts that you can make to your mornings that are gonna reset and regulate your nervous system. These are not going to require any expensive wellness gadgets or super complicated practices. All of these are free, easy to do, and they're going to have a direct impact on your body and your brain. And they're going to set your day up so that you feel more focused, calm, and energized and ready to go. And if you're new here, I'm Connor, and I'm a coach, entrepreneur, and dad. And for the last 6 years, I've been helping driven, ambitious professionals who are feeling stretched thin, scattered, and overwhelmed to improve their energy, rebuild their focus, and find more presence so that they can live more purposeful and meaningful lives. I've done this work with companies like Google and L'Oreal, helping teams and leaders to build healthy, high performance cultures. And now I do this with individuals in my program. And if you want more videos covering topics like nervous system regulation, energy management, and sustainable performance, make sure you hit subscribe so you get notified when the next video drops. So the first shift is one that is difficult to make, but it will make a huge difference. That's why I wanted to put it as number one. And it's having a screen-free hour when you first wake up. The way that most people do their mornings and how I used to for many years is the second they wake up, they turn off their alarm and they open their phone. They check Instagram or emails, and before you know it, your mind is just filled with all of this crap that's outside of you. And giving yourself at least 30 to 60 minutes in the morning before you check in with the outside world is really powerful. The second shift is to find natural light. Now, a question that I've been asking myself for years now is, how were my ancestors living 100,000 years ago? Because when you ask that question, there are some hints and some answers that we can use that inform us on how to live as modern day humans, right? There's a big mismatch. Most of our time on this earth as Homo sapiens, we were living a very different lifestyle. And part of that was we were outside. Maybe we were sleeping in a tent or in a cave, but as soon as we woke up, we were exposed to natural light. But now we live inside. We are in apartments or homes. And if we're not intentional, it might be 2 or 3 hours before we actually step outside in the morning. Now, one of the reasons that getting natural light is so important is it helps set your circadian rhythm. You've probably heard this term before. It's basically like your body's master clock, and it helps regulate a whole host of different biological processes. And it needs signals to understand what time of day it is. It can't just look at your wristwatch and know. One of the primary signals is light, and especially natural light. So if you just aim within the first couple hours of waking to have 5-10 minutes where you're outside and you're allowing the morning sunlight to kind of hit your face and get into your eyes, that's plenty. And that will help wake you up naturally and has a profound regulating impact on your nervous system. The next shift has to do with eating breakfast. Now, a few years ago, it was really popular amongst health and fitness influencers to fast, this concept of intermittent fasting. And I myself did this for a number of years. I would wait until 12 or 1 o'clock to have my first meal, which meant that my mornings were basically fueled by black coffee. Now, this does have some benefits, I have to say. It really ramps you up into this state of like hyper focus and really getting ready to go. But it also has some downsides. For most of us in the modern world, we're living in this state of sympathetic overdrive, meaning our nervous system is sort of flipped on into the sympathetic state of activation way too much. Now, a couple years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoinflammatory condition, and it's really changed my morning routine. Now I'm really careful about having a nice, wholesome breakfast before I take my first coffee or dose of caffeine in the morning to make sure that the caffeine that you're likely drinking doesn't go straight into kind of go mode for your nervous system. And it also has the benefit of sending another signal to your circadian clock. The next morning shift is one that you've probably heard of before, and it has to do with breath work and meditation. Now, I really believe that having some time to kind of go within is really, really an important part of my morning routine, and it can make a huge difference to yours, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes. Now, before I was a father, I had a lot more time in the mornings, and so I would pretty consistently do a 20-minute morning meditation. I might add some breath work. Then I might do some morning mobility or yoga. And my morning routine could comfortably go past an hour. I don't have that time anymore. So, what I've been doing in this season of life is combining my breath work, meditation, and movement into sort of a 3-in-1 practice. The way it typically looks is I start with the breath. The reason I do that is because the breath has this direct impact on your nervous system. It lives within the autonomic nervous system, that same system that controls our heart rate and our temperature. But we can't control our heart rate and our temperature, but we can control our breath. And so, by using the breath in a way that is purposeful and intentional, you can have a direct impact on your nervous system. Typically, I use a style of breathing called coherent breathing. It's also known as resonant breathing. Very simple. It's 5 to 6 seconds inhale through the nose and a 5 to 6 second exhale out through the nose. So, sort of 5 minutes of that is really good. I consider it the gold standard for nervous system regulation, and it helps send a signal to your nervous system to kind of be in this balanced place. From there, I enter meditation. A lot of people struggle with meditation, I think, because they just try to sit down and be quiet, and they're ramped up and their mind is busy, and it just feels like a lot of work. Now, when you start your meditation practice with breath work before, you're having this sort of bottom up regulation. So you're influencing the body and relaxing it. Then your mind naturally follows, and it makes it much easier to sit in a quiet place of stillness and kind of work with the mental activity and chatter. That's really what a lot of meditation is about. From there, I'll do a little bit of movement. Even if it's just 5 minutes, I'll get down on the ground, do a few stretches, a few yoga poses to kind of get out of the head and into the body. Myself and many people that I work with, we live in this world in which we're always in our head and we're thinking and planning and rehearsing. And so starting the morning by doing something body based, and it can be, stretching, yoga, Pilates, anything at all is really, really good. Curious to know, which of these do you already do? Do you start the morning without your phone? Do you get outside and get some natural light? Are you a big breakfast junkie? Do you have a favorite breakfast recipe you want to share? Or have you been experimenting with any sort of breathwork, meditation, or movement practice? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what's working for you. Even if it's something that I haven't listed, I'd love to get ideas and inspiration from all of you. Now, the next shift is about practicing gratitude. We live in a world in which there's so much comparison. We're always seeing other people's lives and their homes and their vacations and their cars on social media. And it can be really easy to kind of fall into the trap of feeling like we're not enough. We're not doing well enough. We don't have enough of something, enough time, enough money, etc. Gratitude is a really powerful daily practice to sort of shift the lens and just appreciate what you already have. It doesn't have to be something super elaborate. What I like to do is just try to focus my mind on one thing that I'm grateful for in that day. Sometimes it's just like the sunshine and the birds outside. Sometimes it's, my wife or my daughter or a family member. It can be something really, really simple. What this does is it just allows you to kind of sink into this emotional state that's very calming to your nervous system, right? Our nervous system, when it's in this sort of fight or flight, and we're feeling like I need to do something, I need more, I need to do this, it really dysregulates us. Whereas gratitude brings us back to a place in which we feel safe. And safety and security are really potent signals to give to your nervous system. So the way you can do this is, while your tea or coffee is brewing, is just bring to mind something that you feel gratitude for, and then try to move it from the head to the body. So think about it and then really try to feel into that gratitude, and that will have a really powerful regulating effect on your nervous system. And it's 2 minutes, but it makes a huge difference for the rest of the day. The next shift has to do with something called co-regulation. Now, what's amazing about our nervous systems is that they don't exist in isolation. So this really happens from the moment we're born. So for any of you that have children, or maybe you're an uncle or an auntie, you might know that in those first few years of a child's life, they are, emotionally a little turbulent. And part of the reason for that is because they don't have the ability to sort of soothe and regulate their own nervous system. They're actually regulating their nervous system through a process of co-regulation, usually with the parents or with carers or loved ones around them. What's fascinating is that we don't just lose that ability as we mature and grow up. Of course, as we mature, have the ability to manage and soothe our own, emotional states and our nervous system. But well into adulthood, we are constantly co-regulating. In the morning, once my wife and daughter have woken up and we're all together, we always just take a minute to regulate with each other. Claire and I, for many years, have practiced this tool called the 20-second hug. And it's basically a hug that's just a little longer than you'd feel comfortable with. But try it sometime with someone you love, and you will feel that there's really a softening and sort of a release of tension once you kind of hit that 15 to 20-second mark. And so we're always giving each other a really nice grounded hug. And if I'm lucky, my daughter, I might get 2 to 3 seconds, before she kind of squiggles out of my arm and wants me to toss her up into the air. But actually sharing that sort of regulation as a family, or doing it with, a partner or a pet, totally valid to do it if you have a cat or a dog at home. It's a really powerful way to kind of balance and regulate the nervous systems in your household and in your community. All right, the next shift actually happens the night before. So I said in these videos that these would be 8 little shifts that you could make before 8 a.m. This one, yeah, technically you're making it before 8 a.m. because that's happening the night before. And this has to do with what I call a shutdown ritual. So at the end of my workday, I have a really short, simple sequence of things that I do to kind of close out the day. So I look back and I check in, did I get my one big thing done? Did I make some progress? What open loops are on my mind that need to be captured? And then I start planning my next day. I'm not perfect with this, but I'm sort of sketching out, what do I think is going to be the big priority for the next day? Like, what are a couple things that absolutely need to get done? And by doing this and kind of getting all of those, tasks and to-dos and open loops out of your mind and onto a piece of paper or into a digital tool, that's also really regulating for your nervous system. Because for so many of us, we have this very blurry line between our work life and our home life. And the evenings, we're still sort of thinking about work and all the stuff that's left undone or that we have to do. And so by practicing the shutdown ritual at the end of each day, it allows me to really rest, relax, and restore in the evening. And then the next morning, as I'm finishing my morning and as I'm preparing for work, I've already kind of laid the groundwork and the foundation for a focused and intentional day ahead. And so the final shift is really about transitioning into a state of activation. So a lot of the times when we hear about nervous system regulation, it's all about getting calm and down regulating your nervous system and getting into this state of Zen. And I think there's a really, valid reason for this. It's because so many of us live in this state of constant stimulation and hyperactivity that our nervous systems do need more of these down regulating practices that induce the parasympathetic state. But true nervous system regulation is about flexibility. We want our nervous system to be able to respond and react and be ready for whatever the moment calls for. And so after, I've had my breakfast, I've done some of my morning practices, I've dropped my daughter off at daycare and it's time to get to work, I need to shift into activation. So this is where I want to kind of bring my nervous system from that parasympathetic slightly back up to the sympathetic. And so there are a number of different ways that you can do this. Sometimes I like to just bounce up and down and just kind of get the blood flowing and get some deep breaths going. That could be a nice way to kind of have a physiological kind of lift of the body. And sometimes I'll just do a really simple 1 to 2 minute breath practice, an energizing breath where I'm focusing more on the inhale because that's going to be activating of the sympathetic. And that way I'm kind of gradually bringing my nervous system back up into the state where I'm ready and primed to focus and concentrate and really get the most important stuff done in that day so that I can feel like I've had a meaningful and productive day, which I think is a really important part of living a life in which we feel like we have purpose and intention. So that's it. 8 simple shifts that you can use in your morning to reset and regulate your nervous system so that you start your day feeling focused, grounded, and calm. If any of this resonates, if you're the type of person who knows what you should be doing, but you just can't seem to make it stick, that's exactly what I help people do through my program, the Inner Operating System. We work with driven professionals who are feeling stretched thin and want more focus and clarity in their days. And I guide you step by step through a system that's built on everything we just covered, from nervous system regulation to energy management to focus optimization and so much more. And if you're interested in learning more, click below. There's a link to book a discovery call with me. It'll be a simple conversation where we can get to know each other, see what you're struggling with, what changes you want to make, and see if this program could be a fit for you. If you found this video useful, I would love it if you could hit the like button. That will help more people see and learn and benefit from the practices that I just shared. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more videos on regulating your nervous system, managing your energy, and improving your focus so that you can, live a life that feels intentional, meaningful, and purposeful. I'll see you in the next one.